All right, so this is going to be a review of Toy Story 5, a non-spoiler review. But first, I'm coming to you from just before I go to see it, because I just want to talk about my expectations going into this movie. My expectation is that Toy Story 5 will follow a similar formula to the first four, where it's going to be about the role that toys play in the life of children, and these toys trying to grapple with their existence and competing with these outside factors. It's going to have something that tugs at the heartstrings. You're going to wonder how these toys are going to exist going forward. And it's just going to be that idea of just this emotional journey with the toys. But there are three questions I'm going into this movie kind of wondering about. One, how does Woody return? How do they handle that? Because if you haven't seen Toy Story 4, warning, I'm going to give you a little kind of spoilers about how that movie goes. Not little, big spoilers. But in Toy Story 4, they end it with Woody leaving the group. And it seems like that's going to be the end of the Toy Story line, because Woody and Buzz have split. Woody is staying at the campground to rescue lost toys, and Buzz is staying with Bonnie and the rest of the toys and enjoying their playtime. But Woody is returning for this movie, so how do they go about handling that? Two, what role will Jessie play? From the trailers and previews, it looks like Jessie's going to have a major role in this film. So are they going to dive more into her history in the course of this? How are they going to handle her taking that leadership role? Is this trying to set things up for the future? And three is kind of on that note, how will they end it? They ended Toy Story 4 as if that was the final one. But will they do that again? Are they going to leave this at a note where it seems like this is the final Toy Story movie, or have they given up on trying to end it and they're just going to leave things open to the possibility of a Toy Story 6? Will Woody return to the park with both Peep, or will he stay with Buzz and the other toys? We'll have to find out how that goes. But anyway, those are my expectations and the questions I have going into it. I will be right back after I see the movie. See you soon. And I'm back. And I am not crying. You're crying. But no, honestly, it was a very good movie. They had those emotional parts. It really was what I was expecting. The toys go on an adventure. There's some existential crisis. There's them questioning their roles in the world. And in the end, they settle into their new norm. It was a good Toy Story movie, just like the other Toy Story movies. And if you liked Toy Stories 1 through 4, I think you'll like Toy Story 5 as well. That said, if you are questioning whether to see Toy Story 5, you could if you want to see it, but you could also see Toy Stories 1 through 4 again, and it is very similar feel to it. And I actually, even more so than just that they're similar, I noticed there's a lot of things that are in Toy Stories 1 through 4 that are showing up again in Toy Story 5. So, for example, in Toy Story 1, if you enjoyed seeing a pair of toys get separated from their owner and they have to try and find their way back, that's a big part of Toy Story 5 as well. In Toy Story 2, if you enjoyed an army of Buzz Lightyears who don't realize they're toys and they're a little enhanced from the Buzz that we know, yeah, that shows up in Toy Story 5 as well. If in Toy Story 3, you liked seeing a bunch of toys wonder if their time with their child is over and if it's time for them to move on to something new, well, that idea comes up in Toy Story 5 as well. And if you liked in Toy Story 4, where they were questioning how to define a toy, well, in Toy Story 5, we deal with the question of how do you define playtime? So a lot of themes that we see in Toy Stories 1 through 4 are all packed into Toy Story 5, but it does not feel rushed. I feel like they do a good job with the storyline, so even though there's a lot of recurring themes, it is still well done and enjoyable to watch. Now, there were a couple of downsides and a couple of upsides to the movie. Starting with the downsides, I feel like some of the voice actors and actresses felt like they had a little bit of trouble getting back into the accents of their former characters. I don't know. Hopefully you don't notice this when you see it, but there are a couple of them that I'm like, I don't really think that's how that character sounded in the prior movies. There are just little differences that stood out to me. And the other thing, which me as somebody who likes to delve into the world that they're inhabiting, saw this, and this is something that kind of got to me a little bit, but hopefully it's something that you can ignore. I feel like the toys are getting very careless with hiding their ability to be alive, their sentience. There's a scene, and it's very early in the movie, so I feel comfortable talking about this, where Bonnie is outside playing with her toys in the grass. And then she stands up and she looks into the neighbor's yard and sees the neighbor's kids, and we realize that she's having trouble socializing. Well, as she's standing there looking at the neighbor's kids, the toys at her feet stand up and start talking about how the trouble Bonnie's having, and they decide to do something about it, so they start running around doing things while they are still at Bonnie's feet. Now, she's not looking at them, she's looking at the neighbor's kids, but if she just glanced down a little bit, she'd see that her toys were alive. And there's a lot of times where the toys are like behind like a closet door and they're talking quite loud. And I'm like, I feel like the sound would carry through that door. So little things like that where I feel like the toys really would get caught with the way they were acting. But if that's something that you're okay with, that you can just ignore the fact and just assume that humanity is just not ready to see the toys, so they just don't, then that is something you can get past. But those are the minor critiques that I do have for this movie. But there were a lot of great things about this movie as well. I thought that it was a fun journey. We saw the characters traveling about trying to figure out how to solve their problems, and sometimes what they do would cause other problems that they then have to fix, and trying to put everything together. It was an enjoyable trip. I felt like the themes were good. If you watch the trailers, you'll know that this movie is about the toys wrestling with the fact that children nowadays have their face in a screen quite often. They're using tablets or phones, and they just like to look at their technology. And so the toys are wrestling with the idea of, should kids be spending this much time on screens, or should they be playing with us? And they want to be played with. And that whole decision of how this should go is addressed in this movie. And I feel like they do a good job of reaching a resolution. I wasn't really sure how they would tie it all together, but I feel like the message is actually a good one at the end. I feel like the jokes are mostly good. Like, there's a lot of times where I just laugh to myself, and a couple of times where I looked at my wife next to me and was like, really? Did they just make that joke? Now, there is some potty humor in this. There's literally a toy whose entire job is to help young children learn to use the potty for the first time on their own. So, of course, that toy has a lot of potty humor. And so if that's something you don't like, it's something to keep in mind. It's a minor part, and it didn't bother me too much. But it is something to keep in mind. The biggest thing that I liked about this movie is really more of something I didn't like. It's like the one thing I didn't like about the prior Toy Story movies. In a lot of these Toy Story movies, there are scary toys that we have to deal with. In Toy Story 1, it was Sid's toys, those mutants that he had put together, and they were kind of creepy. In Toy Story 3, we have the mean toys at the daycare. In Toy Story 4, we have like a ventriloquist doll, and like there are some toys that are just really weird to look at and kind of scary. Toy Story 5 didn't go that direction. I don't recall any toys in this one that were actually scary. We had the adventure, we had the emotional drama that we've come to know and love from Toy Story, but we didn't have the scary toys. And honestly, I think that the need for scary toys has passed. So for me, that was a benefit, is that we didn't have to deal with that in this movie. So those are the major downsides and upsides that I saw in this movie. So now readdressing the questions that I went in with. How do they handle Woody's return? So this is a non-spoiler review. I'm not going to talk about how they did it, but quite simply, they were able to get him back there and it kind of made sense. The details weren't delved into that much, but they found a way to do it, and it worked. They got him in there, and he was able to be a part of that movie. How will Jesse play into this? Yes, I was right that Jesse plays a big role in this movie. In fact, I would say that Jesse is the main character. Woody and Buzz are back together and they're going on this adventure, and that's a big part of it as well. But this is a Jessie movie. We learn more about her backstory, and we see how that impacts her today. And it really shows the direction and the motivation that she has in everything that she does. Jessie has kind of become the primary doll for Bonnie at the beginning of this movie. And so in that role, she is the one most dealing with the changes. And with her history, we see how that impacts her. So I really liked the direction they went with Jessie. She really is the main character of this movie. And how will they leave things? Now, I mentioned this already. I think they left things pretty well. I liked the message that they had at the end, the way that they chose to wrap this up. Is the age of toys over and there's no way for them to do more movies? No, they can definitely do more Toy Story movies if they choose to. Is it in a good spot where if they chose to stop now, they would be settled in a position that we could be happy with? Yeah, I feel like they set it up in a position that if they chose to end the series here, that would be fine as well. So overall, I feel like it was a good spot for this movie to choose for its conclusion. So anyway, that is my review. Is this a movie I'm going to run out to see multiple times in the theater? Well, no, because I feel like it's similar enough to the prior Toy Story movies that if I want to see Toy Story again, I can see one of those. But is it a movie that I'm glad I saw? Yeah, I am. I think it was well done, and I'm happy to have seen how the fifth installment played into all the rest. And it was nice to see these toys once again. It's always fun to see them in action. So that is my review of Toy Story 5. If you choose to go see this movie, I hope you love it. I hope that it is a satisfactory next chapter in the Toy Story saga for you. And as always, thank you for watching.